Well, good afternoon again. I'm Debbie Cannon. I'm director of the School of Hospitality in the Robinson College of Business. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to a very special afternoon, the inaugural presentation of the Bharat Shah Leadership Speaker Series. This is an incredible journey that we've been on, a fun journey of putting this together. And it is the first endowed speaker series for our school, for the School of Hospitality in its entire history. And it's the first speaker series for the Robinson College of Business that is named in honor of an individual. And that history goes back, as many of you know, over 100 years. This year we're 101 years old. This series is in honor of one of the finest leaders in our industry. And we are thrilled and appreciative that Dr. Shah and his family are now part of the Georgia State University family. Dr. Bharat Shah exemplifies stellar leadership. He is known around the world for his commitment to high ethical values and quality standards. He established the foundation of a company, Noble Investment Group, that was built on these principles, and Noble remains committed to these high standards today. It's part of their core values. It's part of their DNA, the commitment to family values. Many of you know Noble Investment Group. It was founded in 1993. Dr. Shah's son, Mit, is the CEO. And Mit has a global reputation of being one of the finest leaders in our industry as well. Noble has invested more than $2.5 billion, that's with a B, billion dollars, in the lodging industry. And they're regarded as one of the most respected lodging organizations in the United States. It is repeatedly ranked by the Atlanta Business Chronicle as one of the largest private companies in the region, as well as being ranked as one of the top institutional private equity firms and also one of the top minority firms. Noble's investment presence is seen around the nation, as well as in our city. The W Midtown, many of you are very familiar. In fact, we even have some people that work at the W Midtown on 14th Street here. Hyatt Midtown on 10th Street. Residence Inn by Marriott on 17th Street, as well as the W Buckhead. Again, I know a number of you are employed by those hotels. Just yesterday, this is so exciting news, it was announced that Noble will add another fine hotel to Buckhead with AC by Marriott. This will be built at Phipps Plaza. AC by Marriott is an upscale European brand, and the Buckhead location will be the first location of this brand in the city of Atlanta. So we're all looking forward to that. 50 years ago, Dr. Shah came to this country, like so many immigrants before and after him, in search of the American dream. He has recently written a book, America, My Destiny, in which he captures his many memorable adventures in India and throughout America while he has been here. The adventures represent a clear focus on fulfilling goals and dreams. But as you will hear, this path has not been without detours. This path has not been without challenges. But that has made success even more rewarding for Dr. Shah and his family. Dr. Shah wanted to directly share his story with the future leaders of our industry, particularly with our students here today. The messages that you will hear could make a significant impact on your lives. This could be a turning point this afternoon for both your personal and your professional lives. The American dream is alive, and Dr. Shah is dedicated to clearly sending this message to your generation and to future generations. The Bharat Shah Leadership Speaker Series was established with funding from the Shahs so that these inspirational speakers can be featured several times each year. Speakers who will talk about their leadership and their stories, like the Shahs will do today. The series will continue in perpetuity, forever, inspiring and guiding countless numbers of leaders going into the hospitality business and related businesses. I am so very, very honored to present Dr. Bharat Shah and Mit Shah, the first speakers in the Bharat Shah Leadership Speaker Series. Join me, please, in welcoming them.
Debbie, thank you so much. Deb, this is pretty exciting.
It is.
You don't know how long I've been waiting to sit in this chair, having this conversation and being able to go off script. We didn't prep, so this is, for all of us thinking about ever getting an opportunity to sit there unscripted in front of a lot of very, very intelligent folks and friends. This is pretty neat. Being able to reflect on and talk about your story. You've always told us that in our lives that things aren't necessarily as certain as you'd like them to be. It's not as much as you come to this country and you will live the American dream. It's not as certain as that you go to a great university like this and you come out of it with your career firmly planted and then move up the corporate ladder or the entrepreneurial ladder. It's not as certain as you put yourself in a situation to meet the love of your life and things end up in that way. But we are a culture that wants outcomes. We want very much so for us to do this and to get that. And sometimes you have to go through it, as you've told us. And one of the things you struggled with me and Raj about reading as often as we should have growing up. And but you did say to us, if you don't read anything else other than your required reading, do read biographies. And I think it was one of the great things that you asked us to do as we were growing up, because those stories help to supplant and cement the lessons that you were giving us in your stories. And I find that to be very interesting because as you thought about this Leadership Speaker Series, you were very clear with us about what you really wanted this to be is a conversation about stories that aren't always perfect, that don't always have those outcomes fixed and clearly defined. That we have periods in our life where the path seems unclear, where circumstances are very frustrating, and we press on because, quite simply, there's no other option in which to do that. And one of the things that I did read, and it may have been required reading with Emerson, was that the only person that you are destined to be is the person that you choose to be. And I know that you've always encouraged us that success starts with self-confidence, and self-confidence is really about being prepared. And those experiences and those learnings, staying true to our moral compass, and keeping moving forward no matter what. So with that, let's talk about the fact that we all come from somewhere, and most of us have had someone in our lives. Dad, for you, it was your parents. For me and Raj, it was you and Mom, who woke up every day wanting a better life for us. And everyone in this room, at some point in time, their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, that dream was the American dream. So as we kick this off, I'll ask you to turn back and let's talk about the time in your life you were in high school. Talk to us about, what was that like growing up, your city, your town, and the pressures you kind of felt as a teenager growing up in Gujarat, India.
The first question is this me? What happened? Growing up, as my mother had my two sisters and we came in such a quick succession that she could not handle my elder sister and me, and we were sent to my maternal grandparents to live there and do our elementary education there. So naturally, and Arjun and Roshni would say, that's how we find when we come to your home, and that's how we get treated so lovingly. So my childhood was excellent. It was so loving, and that I mean, it was my grandma Jayaba and grandpa Amrat Dada. They just loved both of us, so that was it.
School was tough, right? It wasn't always as successful as the doctorate that you received, that we want to talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
But what happened with that young man? And it's in the book, so I'm not sharing any family secrets in terms of your education and the like.
The toughness actually arrived when I was about in the 8th or 9th grade, and I arrived back in my hometown, where to go through the discipline process of my father. At very times, I felt like I needed to go back to my maternal my maternal grandparents' house. He was very strict, very disciplinary. Rules needed to be followed. But at the same time, I could see that he had given me a choice to make my own decisions within those guidelines. And it just happens that even after I arrived here in this country, there were many times that I had to make my decision. The first person that I always think about it, that if I'm taking this step, would that be approved by my father or not? So the tough discipline during the teenage years till I finished my high school and went on to Bombay to do my bachelor in chemistry and physics. That time was very tough. But after leaving the home, I realized that training was a very important training for me.
So you had all the intentions of staying in India. The choice to come to America, and I'll flip through this, and before I ask you to talk to me about this picture and share that, what happened, right? What changed? What was going on? Give us some idea about the year, the time, what was happening in India, what was happening with the family that put you in this picture here at the airport, ready to go to America.
Yeah. I was a sophomore at Wilson College, University of Bombay, and my second year in college. And my father, being a lumber businessman, knew that in the future, when I wanted to be in the business, lumber business would not be there for me to be in. And he had bought a patent to manufacture fruit juice powders in India. And that patent was developed at a Central Food Technological Research Institute in a city south of India called Mysore. So after I finished my bachelor in chemistry and physics in Bombay, I went to Mysore and did the 2-year diploma. Came back in food science and technology, came back. Father had already prepared the package for me. He says, this is the SBA package, Small Business Administration package. You go get the money and get your factory started. Well, what I realized that the Indian bureaucracy and the corruption at that point, even though everything was approved, the officer needed money behind under the table, and I did not know at the age of 22 as to what he was looking for. So finally I just got tired. A friend of mine told me that he is leaving for United States. I happened to be in Bombay, went to United States Information Services, figured out exactly how to get the admission. So this photograph of March 9, 1964, when I was leaving the Bombay airport, it was a different era, ladies and gentlemen. It was a different era, 50 years back. Today I'm celebrating my 50th anniversary in America. This was a different era. To have somebody to live for, to us it was in India, it was still, United States was a newfound country. Everybody else was going to UK, to London and all that. So to them, to go to United States in 50 years back was a big event. So the town folks, the community from all over, about 300 people came to give me a send-off. Only 3 people knew why I was leaving, me and my parents. Everybody was in the euphoria that, hey, one of our men is leaving for America, but only 3 of us, we knew why. I was running away from the country that I felt that I had no way to make any progress individually. This is where the life began on March 12, 1964, when I arrived at the JFK. This is with my parents. The garland that I'm wearing, this is the garland that my mother gave me. There were many garlands. I mean, everybody brought garlands. There was a whole basket full, large baskets that I had to leave behind. I mean, it was that a celebrity was leaving for America. This is this picture, ladies and gentlemen.
So take us back in this picture. Talk to us about growing up with Ban Papa, my grandparents, your parents. Tell us about each of them. You know, what was the thing that you remember most at that time, and what is the thing that you cherish the most about them today?
Two things I would say. For one thing, for my mother, she's the one who taught me the virtue of having unconditional love, regardless of, and I was a mischievous child. I mean, I had a lot of troubles, and that the troubles in the town, everybody knew that, this guy, even though he is top-notch in his grades and whatnot, too many girlfriends and too many parties, and what have you. But it was my mother who was, who tolerated it all, but it was all in a loving way. Father is the one who really, grounded me to what the discipline is required to be a member of his family. So these are the two things that I still carry with me, and if we get a chance, I'll explain more about when you talk about motherly love, what the motherly love is, an unconditional love.
So your father was very tough on you.
Very. And then Mit, let me stop you. And I think you have experienced that too.
It's funny. I only remember all the good things, and it was as you know me. It's where I was going, and it is interesting, right? Because you carry this down generation after generation in terms of how you were raised and the things that you remember, right? There's something that's very powerful, a very latent human emotion that I think as parents that we all share. Our children having the ability to think about things that are bigger and more meaningful than just themselves, and how you are able to carry that off, I think, is about personal preference, right?
Yes. Do you treat a child in a certain way that can cause this outcome? And it's actually interesting because part of this goes back to the very beginning, right? The outcomes. Yes.
And how do you deliver the outcome? And I think as parents today, this is termed helicopter parents, right? We want to be in, and we just parachute in whenever there's an issue and a need. But quite honestly, the tough love and the ability to go through these experiences on your own, perhaps was the greatest single enabler of what you were able to accomplish as a human being, as a professional. So when we go back to this picture and you look at it and you know the date very well and you see your parents, and there's a look of pride on Papa's face and great sadness on your mother's face as well, and you're smiling because you have no idea what's in front of you, right? And so let's talk about you borrowed money. You had how much with you when you landed? Tell us about where you landed and what you did.
In short, I'll say that even though my father had provided me funds to start the factory, but in those 4 or 5 years thereafter, from 1958 to 1962, 1963, his business went down so bad that he was at the brink of bankruptcy. And when I returned back from Mysore with my diploma in food science, I realized when I arrived at the house that my family is in trouble. and to find a job is the only way that the factory is not going to come about. And the job that I would get would be in the city of Bombay as a food inspector for the government, for the city government. And my salary would be like 300 rupees a month. And at that time, the conversion rate was about like six rupees to $1. So it would amount to be like $50 a month in a big city of Bombay, where it does not even pay for a rent for a 1 week, forget about the food and all that. So that was the decision made that I need to leave this town, I need to leave this country. And when I prepared my budget, it was about 12,000 rupees, comes to about like $2,000 that I needed for my airline expense and for my first quarter I arrived at the University of Knoxville, Tennessee, first quarter of expense. What I had also learned at the USIS, the U.S. Information Service, is that a foreign student would be allowed to work during the summer. And even though I had an admission to come here in the fall quarter, I purposely came in the spring quarter. So about 2.5 months later, and I knew my money would be gone, that I'll be ready to go and work and do some summer job. So that was the whole idea. And when the word spread in town, it is my father's reputation in town that some of his friends actually called me. He says, "So how much money you need?" I said, "My budget is 12,000. It was my mom's best friend who told me that you can count 4,000 from me. One of my father's good friend also said that you can count 4,000 from me. And then my uncle who lived in Bombay contributed 4,000. That was my budget. So when I left them and turned around and went towards my gate, I was by myself, sat in the plane, shed a few tears, but then I reconciled myself. I said, the tears are not going to help me. I'm on my own, and I'll have to fight this journey on my own. And that's where it began.
So you hop on a plane, you leave Bombay, and you make your way to Knoxville, Tennessee, home of the Vols, right? Similar cultures, right?
Yeah.
Gujarat and Knoxville, Tennessee in the 60s. And so you're there in Knoxville. You find, in fact, a community of those born and raised in Tennessee. And you also find an Indian population that you gather around. You're doing your master's at the time. Two questions. One is, talk to us about the Indian community that you found, where they come from, and then talk about the job that you ultimately did get, and transition us to where now you're done with Knoxville and what happens.
It was a surprise that I found that there were about 120 students from India at UT Knoxville. And naturally, coming from the state of Gujarat, I was making friends from my state as we talked the same language and whatnot. But it just happened to be that the rooming house that a friend of mine, Mahesh, and I we were at with the American boys, who were in those rooming houses, just outside of the campus, so we can walk. This is where I learned that if I needed to make little money on the side or find free food, that I would work at a university cafeteria. You work for 2 hours in a day, and you get 2 meals free. So I would find my classes in such a way, I would take my classes in such a way that I would go to the cafeteria and work there as a busboy for 2 hours. And my meal that we were allowed to get was $1.40. But the beauty is that the cashier was also a student. So even if my bill was about $170, he said, "Bart, it's okay, go on." So, and then in the evening I'll go and have a free meal. I'll just take a friend of mine with me. He says, "Come, buy a dessert or something," because we knew that even if it goes beyond $1.40, that we would get it. I finished my first quarter, and about 7 of us, in car, we left for Baltimore. I had no idea where we are going. Somewhere, some couple of them had been to Baltimore for summer job. All I was looking for to get a summer job. What happened is that next day, one of the guy who was more experienced found out that there is an ad in the newspaper to sell Bible. So we went for 2 days of training as to how to sell Bible door to door. And the landlord was happy to see a foreign students, coming to Baltimore, and unfortunately, without any deposit, without any rent, with very little money that we, all 7 of us, we could get into one of the apartment complex, like 4-bedroom. 1 week, and there he comes. He said, "Boys, you got the money to pay for the rent?" And everybody's head just went down. He says, "Well, what's going on?" He says, "Sir, we are selling Bibles." And he laughed. He said, 7 of you are trying to make living selling Bibles? He said, "Where do you come from?" He said, "We are from India." He said, "And what's your scripture?" I said, "It's Gita." And he asked us to every one of us, he says, "If you are selling Gita door to door in India, is somebody going to buy it?" He said, "No." Why? Because everybody already has one. He says, "Find something else to do." Long story short, I was a dishwasher at the campus cafeteria. So I got a job as a dishwasher in American Italian restaurant in Baltimore. 1 week later, the old lady was very happy with my performance, promoted me to be a waiter. And one day, serving a very pretty girl, I'm looking at her and trying to serve spaghetti meatballs. It slipped from my hand, went all over the floor, and the sauces just spoiled so many dresses and so many suits that I was fired on the spot. Finally, I ended up with a friend of mine who was in the suburb of suburb of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, in McKeesport, and he was doing his medical residency at the McKeesport Hospital. He and I, we were good friends at Wilson College, Bombay, and I knew that is where he was, and I needed some shelter. So I went to see him. 2 days later, after he's introducing me to all the department heads, a lady from blood bank called him, my friend Gulab. He says, "Your friend, you introduced me that he's doing his master's in food science and technology." Gulab said, "Yes. Can he teach me an organic chemistry?" He said, "I need to pass this course. If not, I cannot continue my certification." I get the word from Gulab. I knock at the door at blood bank. We sat down in the middle of the room. She shows me the book, and I was very familiar with the organic chemistry. And I asked her, I said, "So where is the problem?" He says, "I don't understand the periodic table, the basic elementary thing in organic chemistry." We wiped out the blackboards. In an hour and a half, I taught her exactly the basics, how the compounds are made, how the statements are made. And she was just happy beyond belief. This was about like 10:30 at night. And she serves me coffee and she says, "So how is your vacation going?" I said, "Ma'am, I'm not on vacation. I'm looking for a summer job." This is America, ladies and gentlemen. She picks up the phone and calls a person, the ring dial. And the first thing I hear is, "Mayor, this is Mickey Suderman," a German lady, Mickey Suderman at the blood bank. I got this bright chemist out of Bombay. That guy who was a teacher in a month and a half could not teach me. This man, the young guy, he says, he taught me an hour and a half. He says, he's looking for a job, summer job. Do you have something for him? Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, I'm at the mayor's office. Half an hour later, he asked his assistant to take me to a place I did not know. I did not even dare ask, where am I being taken? What's my salary? I knew I was getting a summer job. Ended up way outside in the country. There is nothing, no roads, no nothing, you're just going through some little track. Ended up in a big complex. It was a city water department of McKeesport, and I became a technician. I tell you, 2 weeks later, when I got my first check, I could not believe my eyes. $1.15 was the minimum wage in 1964. I was making $7.50 as a technician. When I returned back to Knoxville, I was the richest Indian kid in town.
So you go and Knoxville, and you complete your master's. Even then, and performing very well in the class, and now learning how to make money and building relationships, you find yourself without an opportunity to do your PhD. You're hopping in a car, you're driving from Knoxville, really all around the country, and you find yourself at a chicken processing plant. And at this chicken processing, that's your only prospect at the time, right? And so
Yes.
now you find yourself from there, all of a sudden get a last-minute call that sends you to Utah State University, where you do your PhD. You know, it's interesting, and just thinking about the logistics of all of this. Gujarat to Knoxville, Tennessee in the 60s, and then to Logan, Utah. And you might as well be in 3 completely different countries at that point in time. There's a picture up here with your friends and your colleagues. I think you found the Student Association there at Utah State. I want to be able to get through a handful of these others, but Dad, just say one thing about the Utah State experience that you learned the most.
Let me very quickly, the reason I ended up in the chicken processing plant was because my master's thesis was on the effect of fat on the chicken meat. Unsaturated fat will give you unsaturated fat in the meat. Saturated fat would give you saturated. That's where I ended up. I want to come back to you students that 64 to 1968, that was the era of Vietnam War. So even though I had a 4-point average in my master's and finished on the top of the class, I did not have a job. So finally, that's where I ended up. For the first time in my life, I'm watching chicken hanging on the conveyor belt and bleeding through. And my job as a quality control manager was supposed to be collecting the blood samples, and then when the chicken is cooked, to collect the meat samples and make sure that they were microbiologically in good shape. Just as I accept the offer, this is where the blessings come through. I get a phone call from Logan, Utah, Utah State University, head of the Food Science and Technology Department, where I had also applied for a doctoral scholarship, because my mission was that I loved the country so much that one way or the other, regardless of which way, I wanted to stick around here as much as possible. The phone comes there. The boss man, he answers the phone. He says, yes, he is right here. I'm talking to the professor. He's giving me the numbers that this is what you will get in scholarship funds, this, that, and the other. I get the guy's blessings, run 1,500 miles in 2 days, and I was at Utah State. It started, this was Friday afternoon. By Sunday afternoon, I was there Sunday evening. Monday morning, I reported to the department. And what I found out that there were large student body. The picture that you see is that I was actually attending in the audience at the Utah State India Student Association. Their first meeting happened to be an election meeting. And I found out that the Indian students, just because they were from the different region, there were some from my state of Gujarat, there were some from Punjab and what have you, and they all started fighting in the audience. And I'm sitting there in the audience, and they were fighting on the stage, and I'm sitting in the audience, and I looked at them, I said, this is just not right. So I just came on the stage myself, picked up the microphone, and I told the guys, I said, please, I'm a new student here. I just arrived from India about about 15 months back. This is my first month here at Utah State, but I have a few things to tell you. That this fighting among us is not good. What we really need to do is to unite ourselves and show to the host country as to what with the country that we come from. One of the professors, was watching the students from his country. He gets up, he says, and what did you say your name is? I said, Bharat Shah. He says, hey, Bharat Shah is your president from today. And so what you see is the group who were the officers and the board members. I was elected the president unanimously. Both the parties came forward. He says, hey, these are our representatives, these are our representatives. For 3 years that I was at the Utah State, there was no election. Nobody wanted me to go away being a president. And we ran the Foreign Student Association like this, that we were the best on the campus. The campus professors and their families, they just loved us. We invited them for every event that we celebrate in India, including our Diwali, the New Year. So this is the photograph that I'm carrying, 1965, summer at Utah State.
So let's agree that behind every great man is an even greater woman and a stronger presence. You now marry your childhood sweetheart. You bring her back to this country, mine and Roger's mother, and you now start and actually gainfully employed by Nabisco Foods in Parsippany, New Jersey. You then take an offer from R.J. Reynolds Foods, and that moves you to North Carolina. We've got about 20 minutes left, and I want to get to the heart of what we're doing. But the stories of still wanting to find the ability to maximize your own potential, gift shops, import-exporting shoes, and the like. Tell us the mindset. What you now are at the job. You've gone through your master's. You came to this country. You showed up. You learned a lot. You went did your master's. You did your PhD. You're now gainfully employed, but now there's still something that's yearning. Walk us through that moment in time.
The years with Nabisco, I was a research scientist with Nabisco in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, and I worked there for about 2.5 years. It was 1969 that 68 that I started working there, and Mit was born in 1969 in Morristown, New Jersey. This was the time where we were still struggling. I was paying off all the money that I owed everywhere. I had borrowed crazy money to go to India, get married. And so in Parsippany, New Jersey, I could not do much. We started in partnership a gift store business, hoping that this would make a little more money on the side. I actually ended up losing money. And it just happened that at that time, R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, as they were diversifying into food business, RJR Foods, where the products were like Hawaiian Punch, Mighty Fine Puddings, Chungking Chinese products. These were their brand, and I was hired as the Central Quality Control Manager. The difference between New Jersey and Winston-Salem was that Winston-Salem is a sleepy town, 140,000 population. By 6 o'clock, there is really nothing much to do. So I had that desire to get into my own business. And India was the only country that I knew. And as much that I was saving the money, as many vacations days that I had, I was flying to India and went into all different type of ventures, the shrimp, to import shrimp out of India, to import ladies' footwear. That was my last project. And if everything had worked out, I would have been doubling money every shipment. Unfortunately, India was not ready to export to America the quality that the US would require. And the last shipment that I had, the very first and the last shipment that I got, fortunately, 5,000 pairs, $8 per pair was a $40,000 investment. That came from the second mortgage on my house. Whatever Reynolds stocks that I had, I put it on a collateral and borrowed money against, and whatever cash that I had. It just, again, another blessings from up there is that I never had done any import business, but I somehow was directed to get insurance on the case goods. So when the product arrived here at the Wilmington at the base, I was told by the custom officer to take this away in not a nice language, to take this stinking mess out of here. Right? I found out that the product was, the shoes were made during the monsoon season and they had all mildewed. Fortunately, my insurance covered it. I saved my money and then I calmed down. It was all that between 1972 to 1977. All those years went in trying to develop some business on the side. I failed in every one of them.
So if you didn't have the silica gel and you didn't have the insurance, you'd have lost everything?
I would have been wiped out.
Right.
Back to apartment living probably. You know.
So, by the way, that's a great suit. I don't know if you can see that.
Styles.
And so you're assimilating in corporate America. You're now at a place, and I'll turn you back here. So take us back to the day this picture was taken. Again, let's focus on really what happened in terms of this opportunity. How'd you get it? How'd you get into the opportunity? And then we can start talking about some other things in the 15 minutes we've got.
So the friend came one day and he advised me that if you really want to make a little money on the side, this is after I had decided to calm down, no more business. I'm just going to come and just keep on working for RJR till I retire. He tells me, he says, become a commercial broker, so you can do in the evenings, or you can do some selling in the evenings or during the weekends. Which I did. I took the 6 months course. I passed the broker's license in North Carolina. First property that I listed happened to be this one, the Winkler Motel in Winston-Salem, an independent hotel. And again, a little short story that the person that I got the listing from, Mr. Jim Myers, as I could not sell the property for a while, he would not even talk to me. One day, then I go to see him. And the question that he asked me, he says, "You work for Reynolds?" I say, "Yes, I do." He said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Sir, I'm from India." And he says, "So you are a Hindu?" I say, "Yes, I'm a Hindu." He said, "You are the guys who believe in reincarnation?" I said, "Yes, sir, we do." He said, "You mean to tell me that you just keep coming back and back forth in this life when the damn thing ends?" I said, "Sir, I have no idea where I was in my previous life. I don't know where I'm going in my next life." But the Hindus have this philosophy of what we call karma, your deeds. I said, you get paid for your deeds by the Almighty, and if you have done bad work in your life, you will come back to pay for your bad deeds. All of a sudden, he jumps. He says, "Bart, that's exactly what the Bible says. So do you sow it, so does you reap it." And one thing led to another. We are not talking about the commercial property. We're not talking about Winkler. For 2.5 months, every Sunday, there is parallel between Bible and Gita. Finally, when I felt that I could do some business with him, I took the 2-page to give me the listing, extend the listing for 6 more months. The man tells me, he says, "Bart, Winkler is for you. It's not for anybody else. You buy it, you'll make money." I told him, I said, "I don't have the money that you are looking for, $125,000 down payment." So how much you have? Same $40,000 that I have. I said, "I have $40,000. He didn't ask me where is it going to come from, but I knew I could handle that. He said, "Bring some more." We make a deal. August 7, 1979, lo and behold, Milan and I, my wife Milan and I, we are the proud owners of the Winkler Hotel, and I'm in the debt to the hilt. But I was happy. I was happy. One day, a reporter from Winston-Salem Journal got hold of me and talked about my life, this, that, and then he says, "Would you please step outside and let me take a picture?" 2 months later, meanwhile, all this was secret. I had not told to my American friends or my Indian friends or to my boss at Reynolds. 2 months later, this picture comes on the front page of the Winston-Salem Journal. I'm walking into the research center at RJR, and the receptionist, Betty, tells me, he says, so here comes the real estate tycoon. I said, Betty, what are you talking about? He said, okay, you have not seen this? You are on the front page. So my boss then calls me. He says, what are you doing? I said, Chuck, I'm sorry. No problem. He says, how are things? Business going good? I said, yes, business is going good. He said, look, take care of it anytime that you need to leave. I know that you are doing good. As a matter of fact, he pulls the drawer, left drawer, and he says, I just wanted to talk to you. You are due for a raise. I said, no, I think I'll be leaving Reynolds because I'm going to go manage my property.
So 89 rooms, exterior corridor motel, the American dream, right? And so I vividly remember I was 10 at the time, about to turn 10. Raj was 6, and while there are child labor laws that you did not follow, let's just keep that all right here. I do believe that one of the greatest blessings that we both received was actually being a part of seeing all of that unfold. Not just working the desk and cleaning rooms and in the pool and being a part of that, but seeing all walks of life and all people and how valuable those people were to what became the most important life blessing that our family ever had, which is the opportunity to do something like this. And one other thing I'd mention about Mr. Myers and his wife Betty is that so not only did they allow you to buy this with everything that you and Mom had, and also a little bit that you borrowed, they seller financed the entire rest of it because
Yes.
you would have never qualified for a loan. And I think that this goes back to a lot of the teachings that we all get from our parents, which is the first thing that we all should do when we wake up is be a good human being. And I think about just those conversations you had with Jim Myers and the fact that he did something for you that probably no legal advisor would give him the legal advice to do. And the contract was done on one page, right? That was front and back. And so when you compartmentalize that, and again, there's a lot more to this story. That was, if not for that inflection point, there's no telling what road you would be down. So here we are, coming to India under those circumstances to the United States, being in a situation where you don't know that you can get a job. Your options are to work in the chicken manufacturing processing plant. You all of a sudden get an opportunity at Utah State. You fail at a number of businesses through lots of hard work, lots of try and muscle, and then yet you never find this ability to go and run and hide. You still try to continue to figure out how you move forward. And I think for me, just growing up, and for Raj growing up, we saw that there wasn't an outcome that was clearly defined. So I want to mention that, and then I want to just move forward just a little bit. And you are proud of a lot of things in your life. I think one of the things that I've always heard you very proud of is that what you did with a group of folks and really helping to define the Asian American Hoteler Association. I should turn back right over here, and you've got two dear friends that are here. One of which is here, J.K. Patel, and Mike Levin in the middle. I think you're my role model, right? But if you define just people that you've met, what defines for you the kind of person that you learn from, that and who's influenced you in that world as you thought about this one motel, this 89-room motel. And let's just fast forward. So 1993, and I'm going to get to this in just a moment. So that time period, 50% of an Econo Lodge, 50% of a Comfort Inn, and 2 small apartment complexes. And the family's the happiest that we could ever be. I mean, we go by the house. We live in a $60,000 ranch home, and it is awesome. Like, we have the best life. And you now say, "Hey, I want to give back, and I want to do things." So, talk to us about this picture, and talk to us about what influences you.
Mike Levin was the one who had advised the Asian Indian Americans to as many of us were in the hotel business by that time, It was 1986 that he had advised us that we need to form an association of our own, as he had found that some of the Indians were being discriminated when he was the president of the Days Inn. So that was 1986, and I vividly remember that the first meeting that he had held in Atlanta, Milan and I, we drove from Winston-Salem and attended those meetings. Thereafter, it took about 2 years for the real core group of people to sit down and develop the bylaws and the Constitution. The association was formed in 1988. I contested on the board seat in 1993, was elected very, with the top-notch votes. And then in 94, I became the vice chairman of the Asian American Hotel Owners Association. In 95, I was the chairman. And the picture that you see is that me and my friend J.K., who followed me in the association as the chairman for 1996, and Mike Levin, who was the founder or the grandfather of the whole association. That this is the picture of a convention that I was the chairman in Dallas, Texas, at the Hotel Anatole, and I had invited to honor Mike to give a keynote speech, and this is our picture together.
So this is a group in 1990, around the same time, but a few years before that. Wow, and I look completely different. So let's go back to this, because here's the part of the Noble story that I find fascinating. You've led the life, the amount of risks that you've taken. And you've provided Raj and I the opportunity to go to the schools of our dreams. You fought through a hyperinflation of the late 70s, a major recession that at the time was the greatest that you had seen in the late 80s and early 90s. I graduated in 1991. Wake Forest, and came here to Atlanta, worked for an investment banking group, and it just so happened that I was kind of on the front door relative to the creation of limited service hotels. And you were visiting Atlanta frequently relative to your work with AHOA. And in the process, a brand called Hampton Inn got created, Holiday Inn Express was kind of created, and so that was interesting, for us. And you had built this career, again, you had these assets, and I remember you telling me that your entire goal was to pay off all your debt, own the assets debt-free, and you were done. You'd taken all the risk. You weren't going to risk the $40,000 anymore. You risked the $40,000, and then at the end of the day, that what you kind of ran the calculator in terms of the equity value of your investments was about $2 million. And when you think about it, and I remember the stories, there's no greater outcome relative to the American dream. So now your eldest son shows up and says, hey, you know what? I've done this for a couple of years now. I think this is really a model that can work. How about we recapitalize everything that you and Mom have created over this time period, recessions, risk, and the like, and allow me to take that $2 million and go build a couple of Hampton Inns. So and there's more to this story, obviously, but here's what I'm trying to figure out, just, as I go back. And this picture was taken in 1994. You did that, right? And I was 24 at the time. I'm about 8 years older than your grandson Arjun is today, right? And so I'm trying to put myself in that situation. And by the way, you were very tough on me, right? and yet you did it. Right? And so I think everybody here wants to understand something. What in the world were you thinking? Like, how do you do that? How, after this many years in the U.S., so now you're 30 years in the U.S., and let's just backtrack, right? You're now you're approaching a period of time in your life, that you're about to get into what's close to really retirement. You're risking everything again. Why?
That's the question that I have been asked many times, And the only answer that I can give you is, again, I go back to my own father, that this is what he had done to get me in my own business, to put everything that he had to get me into fruit juice powders manufacturing process in that venture. So when I saw that you were ready to jump into the hospitality business, it was an euphoria that I will do anything in my power. Money is not the issue. And again, 91, 92, we were just coming out of the recession, to the point that I was playing games with one cash flow from one property and paying off a bank mortgage of the other property. And all the game that I was playing, hoping that as soon as the recession is over, that I'll probably back into the game. But that time when you called me from Peachtree City that how about, would you want to build a Hampton Inn in Peachtree City? And I remember I was sitting at the Winkler, and without even thinking, I said, yes, son, let's do it. And thereafter, the process that went on, I think it's the real confidence in the sons that you see them growing, that instead of worrying about, what would happen to my own little safe that I have created, there's always this desire that, yes, I have done whatever I had to do, but if this helps my son, my family, I'm willing to do anything at that time. So many times these press reporters have asked me, so Mr. Shah says, did you think through all this, that this can go away? I said, no, I did not, because that thought never came. And again, the blessing is that one step of putting that word to you is, son, go ahead, do it. And it's been about, 20 years now? Been good.
21 years.
It's been good.
It's been great. And I'll just say this, that there's not a moment that goes by where the many thousands of members of our teams at the hotels at Noble don't think about you and think about, really the courage that you had to come to this country, and your story, but then also the trust that you had and everything that you had for me. And as a personal note, and we'll move on from here, I can't imagine it, and I think I can, but I can't. And for all the great things that you are, having that trust in people is probably your greatest trait. I want to skip over, so this is an old picture of your grandchildren. And, as you think about this next generation, they have many, many wonderful attributes, and they too are entering in a world that's very, different and challenging, much like the place that you ran away in India. I mean, it's complicated. Just one advice. What is that one piece of advice you give to the millennial generation? They're now 16 and 13 now. So this picture is old, but that's how we remember them when they didn't talk back. So, what can you share with this generation?
This is the message that I really want to give, not only to my grandchildren, but all the grandchildren who are sitting here as the students of Georgia State University. Let me start by saying that the arena of my being here in U.S. 50 years back, that arena has changed. But the struggles have not changed. It's the same struggle. The struggles that I went through when the period was through the Vietnam War and could not find a job, but then things worked out on its own as you just keep on plowing in. It's the same message that I really want to give you, the students of GSU, is that as you come out of your graduation, your bachelor's degree, you may find that these are tough times, but don't let that scare you. you would find that there are a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities. Just keep plugging in. Just make sure that you have proper networking. Make sure that after you have done your bachelor that you would have some internship at right locations before you go for your MBA or your graduate study. Got to have at least 2 years of industry experience that tells you where the future is. And so that in your graduate work, you would concentrate that particular aspect of the business. Now, you've got to have that spirit of entrepreneurship. And whichever way that you want to grow, be the best that you can. Put every effort. Try to meet as many people as you can. Don't be shy. And put that effort. And then besides the hospitality industry, if you are here from the business school or from any other school, the many venues that are coming on the horizon. There are digital manufacturing, this is bioengineering, biotechnology, many fields that are coming open in this country. Again, regardless of what the media tells you, please don't listen to them. Because when you really looked at it, and if you read some history, you will find that the history has not changed. They are always there has been trouble, regardless of where we are. But today, you will find that we are actually living in the most peaceful era. And the opportunities are there. Do your best. That's all I can ask you is just do your best. Don't give up on America. This is the place. This is the place where you will make your life. And take the opportunities. There are plenty. There are plenty for you.
So now I just want to maybe conclude by just a few things on the personal side. Here's a picture. You built your dream house here. It's amazing. Your grandchildren get born. You move to Atlanta and you build your dream house at Sugarloaf. But I want to go back to this picture. So this is you and Raj back home in India. And you described your story much like I described our story growing up in the ranch home in Winston-Salem, right? As happy as you can be. And you still see kids out and they're playing and they're having a great time. If I can ask you just turn around for a second and talk to me about this picture.
The house that you saw where my younger son Raj was visiting India for the first time, and he was shocked. He was shocked to see that this is where I had spent 24 years of my life. And when he asked me, he says, "Dad, is this?" I said, "Yes," and it was a proud answer. Being in Sugarloaf, yes, it's again, it's a proud moment. This is 1956. Father had made good money, in 58, sorry. Father had made good money during that year. And being a family man, and this is exactly what I have followed his path. Being a family man, for the first time, we took the whole family, not only the family, we had a chef with us, and we had a driver, a car driver with us. We took the whole gang all the way from almost middle of India to the top of Kashmir. This is the photo in front of Taj Mahal in India before on our way to Kashmir. And what you see is my parents, my two sisters who are with me, and the younger sister who is now in New Jersey, a retired school teacher, is the younger one who is standing on the floor, and my younger brother, Sanjay, at that point. This is the whole family in front of Taj Mahal, 1958.
So this is the last picture. This is a painting that hangs in your home. The painting was taken from multiple pictures. A picture of Mom and Papa, your grandparents, and you and Mom, and Reshma and I, and Raj, and then also the kids. An artist painted that together to superimpose all of us, and this is your family.
Yes.
You know? The picture of the Taj Mahal was your family, and this is your family. As we think about Dad, you and I talk almost every day, and we mostly talk about being a father. And I think as I count all of my blessings, having you in my life for your guidance, and again, I'll remind you, as tough as you were on me, but how you were always there for me. I know that relationship with your father, and we talked about this in the picture leaving from India, was one that was very similar. They're looking down on you right now. And when you think about when your life here has been complete, and you see Bon Papa and God, what do you think they are going to say to you about the life that you have lived?
I think I'm sure they are looking at me and looking at all our family, and at least I would hear from my mom that I still love you, son. My father would say, he says, I'm proud of you, that you have followed the principles of how to continue, how to maintain family unity, keep everybody happy, and sacrifice your utmost. Make sure that each and every member of your family is happy and successful. And I'm just glad that he's watching over me and that I have made him happy. That's a good feeling.
It is a good feeling. Dad, your story proves that we aren't born successful. It's not a trait that we ever inherit. I believe that your story also encourages us to think about our own future, what we want to achieve, and challenges us in what we're going to fight for in order to get there, and reminds us that success is for those who remain true to their moral compass and the courageous who are capable of overcoming those obstacles whenever they might be placed in their path. I remember a great quote by Charles Darwin that said, "It's not the strongest of the species who survive, not the most intelligent, but those who are the most adaptive to change." And as I think about the audience here and at your message, and that this world in which they're going to be called, in which to grow up and to lead, is going to be still very uncertain and challenging in many ways. But I would like to remark to you, as much like I've learned, is that be certain of one thing, that it will by far reward those with more ambition than less. And I'll leave you with one thing that I've also learned from my parents, is that God did not put you on this earth to be ordinary. In this world that you'll be called upon to lead, life will be a sum of all of your choices. And your journey and your story is just beginning. America, my destiny, reminds us that if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. And if you can't walk, then crawl. But no matter what, keep moving forward and leave lives that matter. Dad, thank you for sharing your lessons with all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Bharat Shah.
Thank you, Mit and Debbie, for putting all this together for us. It's a very proud moment for the family. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shaw. Thank you, Mit. Thank all of you for being here. I think we all agree this was an inspirational afternoon. We knew it was going to be very special, but this far exceeded expectations of how meaningful this is to all of us. This book is incredibly special, as you know. Dr. Shah and Mit wanted everyone to have a complimentary copy, which I think is, again, just showing how giving they are and gracious they are. And we are going to have a book signing afterwards, but they also were very sensitive to the fact that some of you have classes afterwards and you're rushing to the next class. And so if you can't stay around, that we have cards for you to fill out so that the books will be mailed to you, or if you're students, maybe you can pick them up, but we'll get the book to you. And I think, again, just a wonderful, generous gesture, and thank you very much. You made this afternoon and more, these are life-sticking experiences, so special for us. We wanted you to have something to commemorate this special occasion. So I'm going to ask Stella and Ijaz to come up, two of our majors who are first-generation students, to present you with something that we hope that you will have a special place in your house or your home and or your office. And again, join me in thanking Dr. Shah and Mit Shah.